He was one of the android assassins in the film. Please welcome Mr. Dick Warlock! Ladies and gentlemen, if you would please...
Call this message. Reading.
Please welcome to the stage our heroine of the movie, Ellie Grimbridge, Miss Stacey Nelkin! And folks, I like to think in my mind that Kid Rock wrote the song American Badass about this guy. Bring up Tom Atkins! And please welcome the film's director, Mr. Tommy Lee Wallace! One more time, folks, the cast and crew of Halloween 3. So, if I may start out just by telling you all, this is my favorite Halloween movie of all time. I mean, I look at it and I kind of think Michael Who, because those snakes and bugs coming out of that mask on that kid scared the living shit out of me when I was growing up. And to this day...
How old were you?
How old was I? I was 47 when it came out.
Old enough.
I was 7 years old when I first saw the movie.
What the fuck were your parents thinking?
Different time.
I don't think they were, sir. I really don't think they were. I would sneak downstairs in the middle of the night and I would turn on HBO. And then I flip on the channel and there's this kid watching something wearing a mask and I'm like, oh, this is gonna be wholesome. What was I thinking is more like it. But honestly, my first question is that was supposed to start an anthology. I mean, we had the first two with Michael Myers and that just seemed to end because, I mean, let's face it, dude got burnt to a crisp. He's done for. And this is supposed to kick off an anthology. Why, didn't it happen like that? And what were, if you know, what were some of the other anthology stories that they might have been leading to?
We didn't really get quite that far. You know, everybody in this room knows the reaction. Certain fans who were expecting Michael Myers were not kind, to say the least. It was an unfortunate title mishap. I think we'd have been okay had it been the second installment. Then the idea of, oh, it's going to be different each year could have flown. But after you had a Roman numeral 2, which was all about the further adventures of the Shape and Jamie Lee and the Big Knife and so forth, then Halloween 3 comes out and it's a Roman numeral 3. Everybody had the right to expect where the hell is Michael Myers. By the way, if you haven't noticed, come by the table. I'm writing a book about this very thing, and the subtitle is, Where the Hell is Michael Myers? But, you know, we didn't get very far in all the other ideas, but just stop and think how many other great stories could come out of the season. So it's still, to this day, a great money-making idea, and could have been fun, but things just didn't quite break that way.
So that's kind of an interesting segue in it. Obviously, you were familiar with the source material. Dick, you were familiar with the source material. Tom and Stacey, were you familiar with the Halloween films before? And if so, when you went in to read for Season of the Witch, were you, where the hell's Michael Myers as you're reading through the script, you know?
For me, no. I get scared watching horror films, so I tried to avoid them. I was traumatized watching The Exorcist when I was like 12 or 13. So I really didn't know anything about it. And then I came in and loved the script, and then I saw the movie. Part 1 and then part 2. Yeah.
And then you said, where the hell's Michael Myers?
I was fortunate enough to be hired to do a job, and I was thrilled to do it, and I loved the script, and I personally didn't give a shit that Michael Myers wasn't in it. And I'm sure I said that to numerous fans early days of these conventions who were very unhappy that Michael Myers wasn't in it. But I thought the movie, and I still think the movie is a wonderful Halloween story, and it's a standalone movie on its own. Yeah.
How about you, Dick? Were you surprised that Michael wasn't in it?
No, but I gotta tell you, to me, I've always pushed it as a damn good standalone movie. You know, this is a great piece of art here. I loved it. I had a lot of fun on it, and I'd do it again in a heartbeat. Except I'm a little older, and anyway.
But still handsome.
Are you still married, Tom? My wife's sitting over saying, "What are you doing? What are you doing?"
So we're going to take some questions from the audience.
May I put one little thing in? Since you asked if I'm still married, I have the neatest news. I'm getting married in July.
Hurry up and do it, because by the time you get there, it may not be on the map if,
Yeah. No, 3 years ago, I walked into a Tai Chi class and thought, my, this instructor is marvelous. She's such a good teacher. And 3 weeks later, I realized that something more was going on. And so I invited her to lunch, and we've been inseparable ever since. So, true love never dies.
sounds like me. I walked into a mall down in South Carolina and ran into a little girl that was modeling swimwear, wetsuits in a scuba display. And 30 some odd years later, she's sitting right over there in the corner, and we're still as happy as we were forever. I love you, baby.
Like I was saying, folks, we are going to get some questions from the audience, so if you've got any, then just raise your hands up. Stan's going to come around. Hello. You call it a standalone film. Would there ever be any interest in a prequel, finding out how Connell Cochran became this way? Would there ever be any interest in doing something like that?
After all these years, I suppose the answer is qualified maybe. Several years ago, back in the dark days of Where the Hell's Michael Myers, wouldn't have been a chance, not a chance. But things change. People have submitted scripts to me of a sequel to Halloween 3, which is interesting. But I like your idea. A prequel actually does sound interesting. We'll see. Who knows?
So in most of those scripts that get submitted to you, did Dan succeed at the end, or did he fail?
They were really bad scripts.
Well, what's your take on it? Did he succeed or did he fail?
Well, this gentleman caused two I don't know exactly how he did it over the phone like that, but he caused 2 out of the 3 major networks at the time to stop broadcasting, which is as much magic as Conal Cochran ever did. But that means 2 out of the 3, that means only 1/3 of the targeted children got it. So I gotta say, they probably made it through, decimated though they may have been.
Thank God we didn't have the seat.
I like to think I got through to the 3rd station and they were all safe.
That's the power of Tom Atkins, everybody. So
There is a short story to tell about that. Tommy, that big image of Tommy right at the end, what did you say? Turn it off, turn it off?
Stop it.
Stop it, stop it. Yeah, I wrote this thing, didn't I? That was a tribute to the original Invasion of the Body Snatchers, which, as many of you probably already know, was supposed to end that way, with Kevin McCarthy out in the traffic going, "They're coming," or whatever it was he was saying. And the studio made them tack this bookend ending on to let the audience off the hook. Oh, it's going to be okay. Oh, blah blah blah. And when we were getting near the end of getting ready to put the movie in theaters, Universal called John and said, "We don't like the ending. We want you to soften it and make it, change it." John had final cut, and John called me on the phone and said, "What do you want to do?" This is a man giving a first-time director final cut, which is one of the sweetest gifts I ever received. And I said, "Hell, let's honor Don Siegel and the original Body Snatchers and keep that damn ending." And he said, "Okay."
I could sit here and listen to him tell stories all night.
How you doing?
Good. So my question is, with the inclusion of the 3 masks in Halloween Kills, do you think there's a chance to make a requel or a prequel or anything like that a part of the Michael Myers story?
So you're asking if there's with the inclusion of the 3 masks in the latest Halloween film, is there a possibility of making those part of the Michael Myers story? Like adding those into Michael Myers?
I don't know, I have a feeling the answer to that lies in some lawyer's office somewhere. I just don't know. It's an interesting idea.
God, I don't even want to think about Michael Myers with one of those masks.
I like the idea of the 3 masks going up against the 1 mask somehow. I think that might be fun. A duel or a battle of some sort.
My question's for Tom. So you got to work with both Carpenter and Romero. How are their directing styles different from each other, and how are they similar? They're 2 titans of 80s horror. It's pretty cool. Like, how are their directing styles? Yeah, thank you.
Oh, get out, was it?
I can't hear for shit, so I have no idea. Oh my God, it was long too. It was a long, thoughtful, insightful question. I have no idea what you said.
So,
This year. Between you and Romero and Carpenter.
Oh, Romero and Carpenter. Oh, well, George was like a big, gentle bear who hugged a lot and told you what he wanted and, well, suggested what he wanted, and he was very easy and just a very easy guy, but a wonderful director. John was not that. John was not as open a person as George, and more guarded, but he also knew exactly what he wanted, and he had a good way of letting you get to that, and he had great directions when you weren't getting to that, and they were both wonderful directors. They both, well, George was, and John still is, and they're both terrific guys. I was honored to work with both of them.
Stan, we got one back there.
Hey, thanks guys for doing this. So I want to settle a bet with my wife who's not here. So this is for Mr. Wallace or Miss Nelkin. Is Ellie a robot the entire movie, or does she turn into a robot when she's kidnapped?
I've heard that question before. Who here thinks that Ellie was a robot the whole time?
I don't think
Really? Wow. It never occurred to me. Tommy, what do you think?
Well, you know, 10 years ago that question was asked, and I said, I don't fucking know. I was in a hurry. I was really under pressure writing this stupid thing, and it was like, I don't have a good answer. Now, I'm writing this book about how the movie evolved, and I thought to myself, gee, if I had to do it over again, I think I would focus on, there would have been some cool scenes. I personally believe she was made into a robot after the front end of the story. But wouldn't it have been fun if once we got to the factory, we could have seen some setup example, probably not with Stacey's character, but with some other character for a setup, being getting transformed, getting robotized. Because I thought to myself, whoa, that happened way too fast. But then I thought, wait, Colin Cochran's got magic on his side. This could happen super fast. So I'd love to go back and explore that.
Tom, tell the story of flipping the mask from all bound up on the chair, up out of the camera. Tell that story.
Well, the prologue to that story is that I had the beautiful privilege of working with a seasoned crew headed up by Dean Cundy as a director of photography. They had, he and his crew had done a long list of, well, a lot of them were kind of grindhouse movies, but they really had their chops and they knew what they were doing. And I had been in the trenches with them on Halloween and again on The Fog, so it was a privilege, and I could feel them kind of pulling for me because I was one of them, you know. But first-time director, I'm on the set with them, and we're standing around, and it's time to shoot this insert of the mask going up on the camera, and I said, yeah. It shouldn't be, you know, we're talking about just how to throw it on, and I said, it shouldn't be that hard, you know, just flip it like that. And it goes, and lands right on the damn thing. Perfect, first time. And Dean looked at me and went, oh, shit. And it's kind of like movie superstitions. It took about 37 takes once the camera was rolling.
I love that, because they weren't rolling. He just did it. Never again. So this guy right here in the green hat, you have to ask. Because you had your hand up forever.
Okay, shit. All right, sorry.
Question.
This question for you, Tommy. When Cochran was giving his monologue to Chalice, he said, he was talking along the lines of his people, you know, in the Celtic times and everything. Is that a reference of him being that old? Or is he just talking about his ancestry?
I always felt like he was a warlock and he was old. He was many hundreds of years old.
Okay, because I have a theory about some shit.
Are you going to share?
Well, okay. So if he didn't live that long, so I figured out about the age. He probably would have been about 40 years old during World War II, and of course the Third Reich had the occult section of their regime and everything, and they were always into, you know, like the mystic aspects of Stonehenge and everything like that. I was thinking he could have been a scientist, you know, for the Nazis or some shit like that, you know. But,
I like it.
all right.
That's better than half the scripts you've read.
This is a question for all of you guys. Had the anthology continued, are there any stories that you were aware of that John was considering for the next movie series? For the episode?
As I said a while ago, we never got that far.
But it was a wonderful idea, don't you think?
Yeah.
That they to make an anthology. A lot of wonderful, scary stories you could tell. Yeah.
Hey, come on up.
Hey everyone. First, I want to start by thanking the four of you for being here today. Let's give them a big Cincinnati welcome, shall we? So, I think I speak for a lot of people in the room when I say Halloween 3 is probably one of my favorite horror movies of all time. So I think here it's 2022, 40 years since since Halloween 3 came out. I just have to ask, what are you guys doing for the 40th anniversary, October 22nd? You guys have a party planned? What are you guys doing to commemorate 40 years?
I came to Cincinnati to be part of HorrorHound.
I don't know. I don't hear it or the shit either. What? I'll probably sleep through it. I don't have a plan for it. I can't be honest with you.
That's a long way off.
I thought this was the celebration.
Tommy, what do you now?
Let's make this the celebration. It's the weekend is young.
Okay, so listen, you have a job. We need you to go, what is your name?
Derek.
Derek. Everybody say hi to Derek. Derek, we need you to go out and buy a cake for the 40th anniversary celebration that we're having right here in Cincinnati of Halloween 3. So we need you to, and ice cream. Are you writing this down, Derek? We need cake and ice cream, right? And bring it tomorrow.
Cake and ice cream?
Cake and ice cream.
Egg and ice cream.
Cake and ice cream. You have your instructions.
I'll see you guys for the photo op tomorrow.
All right. All right.
Hey guys, thanks for doing this. This is awesome. I think one of the fun things is how great the movie looks and how great it sounds. So, Tommy, can you talk about how important it was? You mentioned Dean Cundy already, but how important was it to have him do the third film and also to have John Carpenter score it? Because I think I've seen a lot of the vinyl here. I have the vinyl soundtrack at home. It's an awesome score, really second only to the original. So how important was it to have those two guys, you know, shoot your film and score it?
Well, the answer is obvious, and it was a privilege to have such a launch for my first feature. John kind of set the standard on his second feature. First one was a student film that was kind of pirated away from USC and then made into a feature. So it only sort of half counts. But his first official feature was Assault on Precinct 13. And it was made on a shoestring budget. And so he had, actually a classmate of mine was the production manager, who was appalled to learn that we would be eating peanut butter sandwiches, but that John insisted we were going to shoot in Panavision, which is, when you think about a movie that's only a couple $100,000 worth, using Panavision equipment, Panavision lenses, MGM Labs, that was Cadillac, and Samuel Goldwyn post-production. All our mixing, even our editing facility was at Goldwyn. This is top flight treatment of a bigger budget movie, and yet John insisted, which meant we had $1.98 left for everything else. However, I wasn't so sure about that until the first night we looked at dailies on that movie, and we looked at them on a bed sheet in a motel room. And still, this is 2.35 to 1 ratio, big widescreen. They call it, the common name for it is scope. Used to be called CinemaScope. That thing went on forever on each side, and John used the frame very well. And suddenly I realized what his game was. He was making a movie that looked like many, many, many millions of dollars on a shoestring. And because of that, guess what? He insisted on creative control right from the gate. So that's a pattern that he set for movies that he was involved with, and Halloween 3, down the line a few movies, was totally the beneficiary of that. That way of thinking, that approach. There's nothing finer looking than that big wide screen in a theater. And of course, Dean Cundy's eye and his experience contributed mightily to that look. Sound was exquisite, and of course, John's score speaks for itself. So yes, important part of the whole thing.
Hey, thanks for being here, and happy to see all of you. So there's been sort of a revival in the folk horror genre, and interest in it and whatnot.
Did you say folk horror?
Folk horror, yeah, like Wicker Man and Blood on Satan's Claw and things like that. But so sort of tangentially related to that guy's question, with the whole inclusion of Stonehenge and this sort of like implied legacy of all of that. Would you consider Halloween 3 to be a folk horror movie?
That's a weird concept. I'd have to take some time and think about that. This is the first time I've heard the term, so I don't know whether I would consider Halloween 3 that thing or not. Ask me Sunday night, and I'll have given it some thought.
Dick just leaned into me and he said that he's never seen you without a hat on.
I don't have a hat on.
I would like to, just a second, young man, okay? My spirit tells me that I might have made a faux pas here when I said I could sit and listen to Tommy tell stories. What I meant by that is not lies about the movie. What I meant was the making of the movie and how he gives us an insight to it. That's what I meant. My spirit said, you have to straighten that out, Dick. So I did.
Hey there.
So I just think we should give more credit to the gas station employee, because he has these two guys who are screaming frantically, and he just accommodates them, let them do whatever they want. He calls the hospital to pick up the first guy, and so I just think he needs more credit.
It's a high-pressure job.
I have a question about the fan backlash for Halloween 3. Michael Myers fans, did either also expect that much of backlash by Michael Myers fans for the release?
I think we were asleep. It seems so obvious to me that we needed a really good ad campaign to say, here's what we're going to do this year, folks. I've even, for this book I'm writing, I've even composed an ad as if it could have been released just before the movie was out. I don't know, we just weren't thinking straight. Nobody, no executives, no advertising people, certainly not the core group. None of us thought of it that like, hey, don't you think people aren't people gonna expect Michael Myers, and won't there be a major backlash? We didn't ask that question. We were idiots.
He was in it.
Well, okay. I saw to it that he was included in the movie, yes.
I mean, think about it, the merchandising alone, you had one mask that was selling so well, so screw it, let's just make 3, and we'll try to capitalize and get 3 times the merchandising.
We thought about the merchandising. We knew the masks were cool, but beyond that, we fell asleep when we needed to be aware.
I'm kind of curious, by show of hands out here, by applause, how many of you own any of the masks from Halloween 3? How many own all 3? Stan, what you got? Thank you for coming to Cincinnati.
How many own the shape mask?
Thank you for coming to Cincinnati. My question is for Stacey. Did you prefer playing Ellie as a human, or did you prefer playing Ellie as a robot? Thank you. Thank you for coming to Cincinnati.
Oh, thank you. What a great question. Well, it's always fun to play the bad girl or the bad guy, but that was such, it was so short-lived before I lost my head and my arm. So I would have to say, it was more fun hanging with Tom as a real human being, a flesh and blood person.
This question's for Tom. Nothing against Brian Marsh, he's a fine actor, but when I watch Prince of Darkness, I always read his character as kind of a discount Tom Atkins. So I was wondering if you were ever considered for that particular role, because it just seems like that was written for you.
What role?
Prince of Darkness, the lead in John Carpenter's Prince of Darkness movie.
Oh! Who played the Prince of Darkness?
I'll tell you.
You did.
Ryan Marsh.
Ryan Marsh. Well, thanks. I'm sorry I didn't do that role. Son of a bitch. John offered me that part, and I couldn't. I was too busy going to Cancun or something. Well, that's very nice, and I take that as a compliment. Thank you. I have a little snippet to tell about Halloween 3. A lot of people come to me when we're at a show together, Ellie and I, and she will write on hers, "Where would you like to sleep, Dr. Chalice?" Sign it. And then they ask me to say, "Well, that's a dumb question, Miss Eldridge," and sign it. And where we shot that scene, we did do it in the motel, didn't we? Up there in in Northern California, in that actual creepy little motel. My actual wife at that time played Marge, who was in the room next door to the room where we were deciding where to sleep. And
kind of twisted.
Got her brains eaten out by one of the chips that went crazy. Yeah. That's a little piece of trivia just for you.
You've got a question down here? Hold on. I'm gonna make my way. I'm so glad I didn't fall off the stage.
We are too.
Yeah, these guys would all get a laugh out of it though.
Yeah, I really like your movie a lot. My question is like the villains in that movie. I mean, how big of an influence do you think they kind of were? Because that movie got real popular over the years. Because I kind of keep thinking about like the guys from The Matrix, like with the suits on and stuff. When I see your older movie, so how big of an influence do you think that was? Plus, I want to say something to Tommy. I really like this movie called Dark Star. Oh, well, you would talk about some.
Okay. Well, thanks. The dark suits grew up out of a script that never got made. Actually, it wasn't a script, just a treatment that never got made called the Corporate War. I was really interested in the sinister aspect of a faceless corporation and the dangers that are inherent. I deeply believe in the dangers that are inherent in too much corporate power. If it gets radical enough, it becomes fascism. So I had invented these characters, these gray guys, these executives running around killing people. And that script didn't get made, and so I just borrowed it for Halloween 3. I said, you know, we were rewriting Nigel, John and I, John first, then me. We were rewriting Nigel Neal's script, and it needed a little more drive. It needed a little more danger, sense of impending danger, and that was a handy device for doing that, was have a Connell Cochran's committee basically going around, and if you crossed him or you said the wrong thing, you might be in trouble. I've always liked that the bad guys are wearing suits. You know, hey, I'm an old hippie. What You're gonna have to talk louder.
How many times have it been done before that? Because I don't know.
I hadn't seen it before, but afterwards, yes, of course, The Matrix and other movies got guys in suits, and it was effective. Hey, I got there first.
Dark Star, yeah, I really like that movie.
How many of you have been to HorrorHound before? Isn't it great? I love this show. I love Nathan who runs it. He gets wonderful, wonderful numbers of fans to show up. Twice a year. I can't believe it. It's just great. It's great. Thanks for coming. Thanks for being here.
We're gonna jump over here for one.
Yeah, my question was for Tommy. When Tom Atkins goes to Silver Shamrock and he finds the old lady, mechanical old lady, is that an actual piece, or is that something that you guys just kind of a prop for the movie? Because the way Cochran presents it is an actual piece, like an actual automaton, and I know that they used to build those way back in the day like that, so.
We had a very talented inventor as part of our crew. His name's Tom Berman. Also did his share of mask making and special makeup and all that kind of thing. He had an actual museum. The characters take a tour of his museum, and you get a few shots of some of these odd little inventions. As I recall, he didn't have a mechanical old lady. He helped us put together that dummy, and I think he supplied us with the clockwork parts you see when the arm is torn off, but it wasn't a real working robot or anything.
All right, we're going to take our last question over here.
This question is for Tommy, and I just wondered if you had any interesting stories about the casting of Cochran.
Who said all that?
Right over here.
The short answer is no. Deborah Hill had a special talent with casting, and I believe that we had kind of try and imagine Halloween 3 with the ultimate villain Connell Cochran played by Fred McMurray. That was intriguing to us, and anyone who's watched Fred McMurray, you have to ask, well, which movie or which television show? Because a whole generation of people, I grew up watching him as this kindly old dad on My Three Sons. Late in his career, earlier in his career, he played a magnificent shit in Double Indemnity, Billy Wilder picture. So we knew he could be horrifying, he could be sinister. So we courted him for a while, and when that turned out to not be possible, Deborah just said, how about, our friend, the man who wound up in the movie. And we thought it was a brilliant idea. Dan was a movie star for a time, and then of course, like many others, the work didn't come as often. So he was quite willing to jump in and do this, and I thought he was, in the end, I thought he was better than Fred McMurray would have been. He was just magnificent in the role.
He was absolutely terrifying. Absolutely terrifying.
One of the movie's secret weapons.
All right, folks, so one more time, can we hear for the cast and crew of Halloween 3? Dick Warlock. Stacey Nelkin. Tom Atkins. And Mr. Tommy Lee Wallace, everybody.
Happy, happy Halloween, 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 happy, happy Halloween, Silver Shamrock. Happy, happy Halloween, 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 happy, happy Halloween, Silver Shamrock.
It's almost time, kids. The clock is ticking. Be in front of your TV sets for the Horror-thon. And remember the big giveaway at 9. Don't miss it. And don't forget to wear your masks. The clock is ticking. It's almost time.